The Sithri collective had conquered over 24 worlds without ever being seen. They moved through shadows invisible to all known sensor arrays. Silent, undetectable, unstoppable, until they stepped foot on Earth. 1.1 Contact in the dark. The Sithri were an apex infiltration species. Xenobiological ghosts evolved over millennia to suppress heat signatures, mute electromagnetic emissions and dissolve into shadows like phantoms. Their skin shimmered like liquid void, shifting between infrared-absorbent nanofibers and reactive cloaking tissue. To them, conquest was not a matter of warfare, it was artistry. On the edge of Earth's orbit, a Sithri forward reconnaissance vessel blinked into existence for precisely 0.7 seconds before cloaking completely. Enough time to verify coordinates, correct drift, and initiate descent protocols. Commandant Vaughn watched the blue planet spin below, mildly impressed. Primitive yet persistent, he murmured, tail coiled tightly behind his back in quiet anticipation. Humanity has crude satellites and rudimentary global networking, his adjutant hissed. No eyes sharp enough to spot us. Vaughn clicked his fangs in agreement. Their downfall will be silent and poetic. Moments later, 10 Sithri stealth pods screamed silently into Earth's atmosphere, each carrying a precision team equipped with neural override serums, population suppression nanoclouds and psychotropic gas bombs. They were invisible. They were perfect. They were doomed. 1.2 The impossibility of detection. It happened in South Dakota. An unassuming military research compound known as Night Rook Station picked up an anomaly, a shimmer in high-frequency gamma interference. Not an object. Not heat. Just a ripple like the brief exhale of an unseen force. The anomaly lasted 0.0064 seconds. It shouldn't have registered at all. But someone had recently authorized upgrades to Rook Station's fringe detection systems. Not someone exactly. A young PhD dropout named Kelly Nguyen, who claimed she could use quantum vacuum fluctuation shifts to detect cloaked activity in the Casimir plane. Nobody believed her. Except the old grizzled base commander, General Marcus Rain. "Doc, what the hell am I looking at?" he growled. She pointed. "That, sir, is an alien." "Probably. You're telling me we just spotted a ghost?" Kelly sipped her coffee. "No, sir. I'm telling you we caught it blinking." 1.3 First Shadows. The first infiltration team entered a small rural town near the Black Hills, planning to disperse sleep gas and set up neural override beacons. They didn't make it past Main Street. Rural surveillance drones, outfitted months prior for wildfire detection, detected not bodies, not visuals, but shadow displacement. Subtle distortions and thermal shadows inconsistent with local flora, fauna, or air currents. Before the Sithri could react, 2 of their number were hit with high-velocity rubberized flechettes. The impacts didn't kill, but they disrupted cloak harmonics long enough to make their outlines flicker on the town street monitors. Sheriff Wanda James, half asleep with a donut in one hand and a sidearm in the other, saw a glitching humanoid shape on camera and slammed the emergency response button. It wasn't official protocol. It wasn't organized. But in 15 minutes, every porch light in town came on, every deer rifle was loaded, and a teenager with a VR headset hijacked the nearest drone to track their movements with uncanny precision. The aliens didn't understand what was happening. This wasn't war. This was chaos with a badge and a shotgun. And it worked. 1.4 The Earth Problem. Across the Sithri mothership, panic crept like mold. Infiltrator Team 3 had gone dark. Team 6 was pinned by what reports claimed were homemade EM traps powered by truck batteries. Team 2, sent to disable communications, was instead trapped inside a Walmart overnight and overwhelmed by a group of overnight employees who thought it was a publicity stunt. Their stealth tech, which had worked flawlessly on 27 worlds, was failing. Or rather, humans weren't playing by the same rules. "We underestimated their unpredictability," his strategist Cage Vol to Commandant Vaughn. "No. We overestimated their similarity," Vaughn replied grimly. He stared at the data. These weren't organized military tactics. These were spontaneous resistances. Patternless, irregular, improvised. And that, more than anything, terrified him. 1.5 The Hunter Program. Within hours, the U.S. Department of Defense activated a dormant counterintelligence program dubbed Hunter Null. Originally designed to detect stealth drones, it used heuristic feedback AI to track disturbances in ambient particles. It had never worked against foreign technology. But now, faced with the Sithri, it had purpose. Across the globe, new algorithms went online. Heat signatures were no longer the metric. Instead, they tracked how organisms affected the environment. Minute changes in carbon dioxide distribution, ripple effects in magnetic fields caused by bioelectric motion, things no cloaking device could hide. And more than that, humans adapted fast. A SCI-FI commander entered an abandoned warehouse in Detroit. 3 minutes later, a 14-year-old urban explorer uploaded infrared footage of a shimmering form to TikTok. Within 10 minutes, amateur hackers had extracted coordinates and AI-enhanced frames. Within 30 minutes, CNN was running breaking coverage of invisible aliens invading cities. Humanity didn't need governments. It had the internet. 1.6, a different kind of predator. In the Amazon rainforest, SCI-FI Team 9 attempted to sabotage global oxygen production nodes. They were spotted by a group of indigenous trackers using traditional methods, none of them involving tech. One tracker, Ojwara, followed them for 4 days through terrain even machines would fail in. No drones. No thermal scopes. Just instinct, observation, and generations of passed-down wisdom. When asked how he found them, he said, "The forest told me. They stepped where they shouldn't. They moved like they didn't belong." The SCI-FI had always thought of themselves as the perfect apex predator. They'd never faced humans before. They'd never faced Earth. 1.7, Welcome to the jungle. The war wasn't fought in space. It wasn't fought with fleets. It was fought with shovel traps, deepfake leaks, coordinated flashlight offensives, solar flare mimicry, 3D printed landmines, and a grandma in Georgia who spotted one of them in her garden and hit it with a rake. It was fought in a classroom where a physics teacher noticed a shimmer and electrocuted it with a Van de Graaff generator. It was fought on Reddit. It was fought in caves, alleys, shipping containers, and cornfields. And everywhere the SCI-FI went, thinking they were unseen, there was a human waiting with a baseball bat, a smartphone, or a haphazard EMP slingshot yelling, "I see you motherf*****r. 1.8, A whisper of surrender. Back on the mothership, Commandant Vaughn's claws trembled. "We don't understand them," Kishval rasped. "No," Vaughn said slowly. "We don't control them." And in that distinction, the fate of the SCI-FI was sealed. The Hivari had no word for exposure. Not in the way humans understood it. To them, their cloaking technology was the pinnacle of stealth, perfect, unbreachable, untouchable. Entire civilizations had fallen before they even saw their destroyers. They didn't know what it felt like to be seen. Until Earth. Until that night over Nevada. Captain Thrixus hovered silently in orbit, gazing through the crystalline viewport of the Veilborn, one of the Hivari's most advanced reconnaissance vessels. His tendrils twitched nervously, a reflex he hadn't felt since the RA call front a decade ago. Below him, Earth's night side shimmered with chaotic energy, uncounted electromagnetic pulses, infrared hotspots, and something else. A frequency they couldn't jam. One that burned through their cloaks like sunlight through fog. His subordinate, Lectal, pulsed a violet warning across the neural net. "Captain. Veil integrity at 70%. Earth's surface is returning active scans. They should not be able to see us." "They shouldn't," Thrixus echoed aloud, watching the flashes of light streaking upward from the surface. One of them passed dangerously close to their hull, a human orbital laser tagged with military insignia. The Veilborn's cloak flickered. In a universe where Hivari ships had flown across hundreds of battlefields unnoticed, this was unthinkable. Unbearable. Unprecedented. "They're locking on," Lectal said in a tone tight with disbelief. "We are cloaked. We are compromised," Thrixus interrupted coldly. "Disengage. Now." As the Veilborn burned hard for lunar shadow, another pulse struck them. This one didn't just skim the hull, it bit into it. Systems shorted. The ship buckled. And then, for the first time in Hivari history, they ran. On the surface, Area Theta 7, Nevada. Lieutenant Riley Graves leaned against a battered command console deep inside the subterranean command center. Monitors buzzed with the afterglow of the orbital contact. Bright, angry red readouts pulsed on screen, each representing something extraordinary, a direct hit on a cloaked alien vessel. Dr. Amara Vance stepped forward, her arms crossed, brow furrowed. "They're bleeding energy. I've never seen anything like it. Whatever tech they're running, it's old school in concept. Optical cloaking combined with neuroresonance dampening. But we cracked it." Graves arched an eyebrow. "How?" "Biotech." Amara pointed to the screen. "You know those experimental blood samples we got from the Antarctica dig site? The prehistoric bacteria?" Graves blinked. "The ones that survived in the dark for millions of years?" "Yeah." Turns out they emit bioresonance signals when exposed to certain EM fields. We laced the upper stratosphere with synthetic clouds containing engineered versions. When the aliens engaged their cloaks, the field interacted with the bacterial signatures, creating visual anomalies. She grinned. They think they're invisible. But to us, they're glowing ghosts in the sky. Meanwhile, the Hivari Council, aboard the Dyson Arc Sanctum. High above the galactic core, inside a lightless chamber older than Earth's crust, the Hivari high minds gathered. Thrixus's report played on loop, blurred footage of a glowing veil born under fire, images of humans tracking them with precision, the panic in his voice undeniable. This cannot be, the Archmind hissed. Their species is young. Primal. They burn carbon and cling to ground-bound weapons. Another mind in the cluster replied, yet they see us. They touch us. One of our fleets was nearly downed. And worse, Thrixus added, appearing via neurotelepathic broadcast, they're not afraid. The council fell silent. Not afraid. A phrase more terrifying than any weapon. Prepare contingency protocol zeros, the Archmind decided. What? Thrixus recoiled. That's extinction level? We do not fight those who can see us. We erase them before they can scream. Underground lab, Nevada bunker 2 days later. The experiments escalated. Human scientists, combining quantum resonance arrays with Earth's natural magnetosphere, had created a rudimentary early warning network. Every time the Hivari attempted atmospheric penetration, they lit up like Christmas trees on sensors. No longer was Earth blind. No longer were humans prey. Graves stood in front of the table where a shimmering piece of alien alloy, ripped from the Veilborn, hovered within a magnetic suspension field. You realize what this means, right? He said. Amara nodded. We cracked cloaking. Not just their version, any cloaking. On a galactic scale. They're going to retaliate. They already are, she whispered, pointing to a red dot appearing on the monitor. Then another. Then 12. Fleet incoming. Earth Defense Command, global broadcast. The world had never seen a unified government, until now. Old rivalries dissolved overnight. Every major capital lit up with emergency protocols. Satellites were reprogrammed. Hidden bases activated. AI war networks awoke from their slumber. Soldiers, hackers, engineers, civilians, everyone had a part to play. But most importantly, humans weren't afraid anymore. They had seen their enemy. And they had laughed. In orbit, the battle begins. The first wave of Hivari warships emerged from fold space above the Pacific. Cloaked, stealthy, deadly. And then, spotted. Every cloaked vessel painted with tags. Human drones swarmed them. Lasers from orbital platforms sliced through hulls. Micronukes bloomed across the upper atmosphere. Thrixus screamed across the command channel, how are they tracking every move? Back on Earth, Graves and Amara watched from their bunker. Graves smirked. They thought being unseen made them gods. Amara smiled darkly. But we're the monsters in the dark now. Above the blue curve of Earth, the Hivari war fleet writhed like a swarm of metallic phantoms, dark, slick, glimmering intermittently as their cloaks flickered in Earth's atmosphere. But the cloak was no longer a shield. It was a curse. Because now, humanity could see them. On every military satellite, from the dusty outposts in Mongolia to the suboceanic servers in Antarctica, the same message blinked in ominous red. Alert, multiple visual contacts. Cloaked hostiles identified. Targeting solutions locked. And then, the sky ignited. Orbit, the battle above. The Veilborn was not the only vessel of its kind anymore. The entire 6th Spectral Armada had followed Thrixus's jump coordinates, appearing silently above Earth like a deadly storm front. But Earth was waiting. A swarm of autonomous satellites, Project Skyfire, unveiled themselves from low orbit. Their hulls shimmered with solar-gathered energy, and their payloads were custom-forged from reverse-engineered alien alloy harvested just days ago from the Veilborn's debris. Each one carried a quantum-locked coil gun, a design no alien had seen before. And the Hivari? They had no countermeasures. The first shot screamed silently through vacuum. Dozens of Hivari corvettes were impaled by invisible rods moving at relativistic speeds. Armor meant to resist particle weapons cracked like glass. Ships burst open like seed pods in the dark. Captain Thrixus, aboard the Spectre Vow, stared at his tactical display in stunned silence. How, he rasped. They shouldn't be capable of this level of precision. We are not even broadcasting signatures. Lechtal's voice came through the neuraline filled with static and dread. They're using something else. Bioresonance? Graviton lensing? They're adapting faster than we can mask. A new blip lit up on their scanner. One that wasn't cloaked. One that was coming in hot and proud. No stealth, no subtlety. It was human. Ground Control, Colorado High Command. Riley Graves stood tall inside the war room, surrounded by a floor-to-ceiling display of the Earth's orbital layers. Bright icons flashed, tracking every skirmish, every kill. What is that blip? Imara asked, pointing to the incoming object. Graves smirked. That's the Dauntless. First-generation human orbital cruiser. Launched yesterday. Built from Veil-born scrap. Imara stared. You built a functioning warship from that downed alien wreck? Hell yes we did. Not just functioning. Predatory. We didn't copy their tech, we broke it apart and turned it into something meaner. As they watched, the Dauntless plunged through the atmosphere like a falling god, its rail cannons spinning to life. The first salvo obliterated a Hivari destroyer. The second shattered the fleet's command node. The third tore open a rift in Hivari morale. Aboard the Spectre vow. Retreat. Thrixus bellowed. They can see us. They can hit us. They are not prey, they are predators. We must fall back and reassess. But even as he spoke, the humans were broadcasting. A message wideband. Plain English. We see you now. You thought you were ghosts. But we're the ones who haunt the stars. The Hivari had never known psychological warfare. It wasn't their way. Subtlety, shadows, precision, these were their tools. But the humans? The humans laughed as they killed. Thrixus felt the ripple of dread spread through the crew like a virus. For the first time in his long, tactical life, he considered surrender. Elsewhere, Mars Defense Command Olympus Mons Relay. General Addison Hayes stared at the real-time footage with a cigarette burning between her fingers, forgotten. We're winning, she murmured. An aide blinked. Isn't that good, ma'am? No, her voice was low. It's terrifying. The aide hesitated. Why? Because they thought they were invisible. They were the boogeymen of the galaxy. But we see them now and we're not just winning, we're erasing them. What happens when the rest of the galaxy realizes that? The room fell silent. What happened when the galaxy realized that Earth wasn't the underdog anymore? Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belt, a listening post wakes. Hundreds of millions of kilometers away, a secret alien relay station came to life. Monolithic and ancient, it belonged to no empire, only to watchers. The witnesses. Silent observers of galactic conflict. Passive until provoked. Now they turned their gaze toward Earth. What they saw made them shudder. A species born in gravity and fire. Driven by emotion, chaos, and logic in equal parts. With no respect for rules. No patience for empires. And worse? They were fast. In mere days they had flipped the technological balance of the Hivari. In mere hours they had annihilated ships that once ruled without challenge. One of the witnesses spoke for the first time in millennia. The veil has fallen. The humans are watching. We are no longer alone. Back on Earth, aftermath. The sky cleared. Hivari ships limped into retreat. The Spectre vow jumped away in a blast of folded light, leaving behind wreckage, silence, and the ashes of what they thought was superiority. Humanity had stood against a race built on shadows and won. Graves looked up at the stars from the ruined launch pad at Vandenberg. Let them come, he muttered. We're done hiding. Professor Zeoelen regained consciousness to the sound of laughter. Not the polite, restrained laughter of civilized beings, raucous, chaotic, unhinged cackling. The moment his 6 eyes blinked open, he regretted it. Jason was holding a plate of writhing, fermented fish while Sergeant Diaz casually stirred a bowl of bubbling, bright red liquid. Some of the alien students had fled the room entirely. Others remained, frozen in abject terror. One Zyphorian was praying. Zeoelen pushed himself upright, his entire existence hanging by a thread. What, now? Jason's grin widened. Ever heard of surströmming? Professor Zeoelen hadn't. Jason pulled a tin from his bag and lifted the lid with a sinister hiss. Immediately the air became toxic. A Zyphorian student gagged violently. A reptilian cadet clawed at its own face, retching. One of the plant-based species started wilting on the spot. Zeoelen's entire body seized up. The scent alone was enough to trigger a full-on neurological panic response. Humans, he croaked, have weaponized food. War crimes in a can. Jason casually held up the can. This is fermented fish. Smells like a corpse. Tastes amazing. Professor Zeoelen's brain refused to process the words. Diaz grinned. Oh, let's hit him with the real horror. Jason, you got any Hakarl? Jason pulled out another container. Zhuelin's soul left his body. Fermented. Shark. Meat. The words thundered through his mind like an extinction-level event. Shark. A species so terrifying it was already banned from being discussed in intergalactic xenobiology lectures. Fermented. A process meant to break down toxins, which humans ignored entirely, eating the results anyway. Meat. Flesh. Rotting, decomposing flesh. His very existence screamed in protest. A Xiphorian collapsed into unconsciousness. A reptilian cadet tried to tunnel through the floor. Professor Zhuelin felt his sanity hanging by a thread. And Jason? Jason popped a cube into his mouth and chewed. Bit strong, he admitted. But, it grows on you. The breaking point. Professor Zhuelin's mind shattered. All logic. All reason. Extinguished. The universe had laws. There were rules. Humans ignored them all. The last shred of his professional restraint snapped. What is wrong with you? Jason blinked. What? Your entire species, Zhuelin grabbed the closest table for support, should not exist. You eat poisons for fun. You consume food that kills other life forms. And you, he pointed a trembling claw at Diaz, you brought a whole collection? Diaz shrugged. Figured it'd be a good lesson in cultural exchange. Cultural exchange. Professor Zhuelin made a strangled noise. He turned to his students, those who hadn't fainted, fled, or begun questioning reality. This is why the Intergalactic Union put restrictions on human cuisine. This is why we had to ban certain Earth food imports. They do not recognize the concept of edibility. Jason looked vaguely offended. That's not true. We have limits. Professor Zhuelin let out a bitter, broken laugh. You have limits. Tell me what food is too dangerous even for humans. Jason and Diaz exchanged glances. Well? Jason scratched his chin. There's this one fish that's super poisonous unless it's prepared exactly right. Fugu, Diaz supplied. Zhuelin's vision blurred. You mean to tell me you knowingly eat something that requires surgical precision to avoid death? Jason grinned. Yeah. Pretty cool, right? Professor Zhuelin fainted again. The aftermath. When Professor Zhuelin woke up the second time, he was in the Academy medbay. A kind-looking nurse handed him a glass of water and reassured him that the humans had been escorted out. But nothing could erase the horrors he had witnessed. His mind was forever altered. The next day he submitted a formal request to rewrite every xenobiology textbook in the Intergalactic Union. Under the new guidelines, the entirety of human cuisine was to be classified as biological anomaly, approach with extreme caution. And yet, as Zhuelin stared at the untouched meal on his tray, a tiny voice whispered in the back of his mind. What if, just once you tried it? The horror had changed him. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. Fire, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more insane human antics. Rocket.